Hello, that finished a little bit earlier than I expected that video. So, thanks for joining us today. Wherever you are, or whenever you're actually turning around to watch this, I have with me today Wim Krieckemans, who is one of the founders of the very newest Lambic Brewery in Belgium. So, this is quite an achievement. Thank you, Wim, for taking the time.
Thanks for inviting us.
Excellent. So I should mention it is Brouwerij Kestemont.
Yeah, correct.
Don't know if I'm pronouncing. I know my Flemish pronunciation is terrible. So,
spot on.
But yeah. So I suppose probably most people who are going to watch this know, but maybe you should give a little brief intro as to what actual lambic is before we talk about how what it means to be the newest one.
I think the biggest difference from a classic brew is that we don't add yeast. It's a wild fermentation. And there's a specific reason why Lambic is a regional product, home to this neck of the woods where we're at, which is the Brussels and the southwest side of it, because there's a certain concentration of yeast and bacteria in the air that make it that you can only get that particular flavor and wild fermentation in this area.
So I mean, it's a spontaneous beer. It just
never know what you're gonna get.
exactly. So it's always different, and you have to have the right. Yeah, it can only be brewed at certain times of the year because the temperature is right and things like that.
We brew typically somewhere in October, depending on climate, and then it ends April, first weeks of May, depends again. But our golden rule is we don't brew when the night temperature is 10 degrees or more, because then it doesn't cool down fast enough, and you have more risk of an infection of yeast and bacteria that you don't want in your beer. And you risk acidification and other things you don't like.
Right. And I mean, like you said, I mean, this is very traditional to the area. It has been brewed there for, I don't know, centuries. But so it's within, like I said, within that area. But it came very close to dying out then at the kind of the start to middle of the 20th century. There was only 2 or 3 breweries left. Was it?
In the 60s, a lot of them closed down. It was a time when Pils beer became very popular, and people kind of lost their taste for it. It was a big industrialization of the beer market, and nobody was interested in Lambic anymore. So all the smaller breweries, because most of them were family owned, some were still farmers also, they all closed down one after the other because there were literally hundreds. And by the end of the 20th century, there were like 4 or 5 left.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most famous is probably Cantillon. That's still there.
Cantillon, Beaune was still left. Those are the 2 big. Lindemans, of course, is a very big one. Timmermans also. They hang in there.
Yeah, and then it slowly. I don't know whether you can relate it to the kind of the craft beer boom in America and throughout the world, whether that then brought the interest or whether it was just people had more interest anyway. They were looking for something else. Like you said, I mean, beer worldwide had become kind of homogenous. It was all lagers and that was it.
Exactly. And I think it's the same trend as you indeed saw in the US when people wanted more artisanal, more homemade, more special things, more authentic. Big boom in IPAs, craft breweries, and for Lambic it was the same thing. People were searching something that was not made by a multinational company, although they make fine beers, but it's an enrichment of the market.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is now, like I said, it nearly died out, but it is now everywhere in Belgium, in Brussels anyway. And it's that style of beer, I don't know if you can call it Lambic or not, but spontaneous beers are also gaining in popularity around the world.
Absolutely. Wood lagered and spontaneous is all the rage.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I said, I mean, from there, you then decided, like Kestemont is now based in was that an old Lambic brewery or was it?
Yeah, it was. So we're actually organic farmers. So we grow fruit and vegetables. I've been doing that for the past plus 40 years in this region, Linnic, which is southwest of Brussels. And 2 streets down from where I live, where my father-in-law lives, there was an old brewery for sale for quite a while, the Goossens Brewery, another one that stopped in the 60s. And it's a little town, it's called Schepdaal. There were just in that town 3 breweries already, and they all closed down at the same time. So it stood idle for, I think, it wasn't a brewery for about 50, 60 years, no brewing activity whatsoever. But they've been brewing for hundreds of years before. Last thing it was a chicken farm, for instance. I mean, there you go. So we bought a building in 2017. We bought worts from another brewer, Den Herberg in Buizingen. And we put it on barrels to age in 2019. And in 2021, we installed our own installation. We started brewing ourselves. And since then, we haven't bought any wort externally. We just brew everything ourselves right now.
Okay.
And now the 5th season we're doing. Yep.
Okay. So was that the intention? Like, did you buy the building with the intention of setting up a Lambic brewery, or was it?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
My brother-in-law Elias, he's been brewing since 12, 13 years old, probably, in this kitchen of his parents in the cellar. Like really, like one of those stories where you have a hobby and it gets way out of hand. That's what we do. So he's been experimenting with that for a very long time, and we're farmers, which is a difficult profession, especially with all the new rules and climate change. You've seen all the protests.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way to, the government got a bit more relaxed on having more activities that are not necessarily farming, but have a link to farming. In Lambic Brewing, back in the days, like 150 years ago, everybody was a farmer and a brewer, because that's how you kept your people occupied during the winter times as well. And you can grow your own grain for it. You have feed for your livestock, so it's a win-win. And we're doing the opposite. Everybody that was a farmer went to brewing and stopped being a farmer, and we started a farming, went to brewing, and probably will keep doing the both, because we grow our own wheat, we grow our own a lot of the fruits we use for the Lambic beers we grow ourselves, and we also have some sheep where we feed the leftover too.
So is this, do you see this very much, it's not a standalone business so that you're trying to build up, it is part of your whole lifestyle, your whole farm?
Now it is, because we believe in the more the circular economy, where it's so close to, you try to have minimal waste, minimal transport, and it's a very symbiotic two kind of professions. One is interesting for the other and the other way around. So at the moment, yes, we believe that both are very interesting to growing, but in 10, 20 years, who knows?
Yeah, but it is, I mean, you're not going into this with a need that you have to make this a big brewery to kind of pay everything.
That would be great, obviously. But it's not what we have a company, we're farmers, we also have a wholesale unit, because we deliver directly to supermarkets. So we have 2 businesses already. This is a 3rd one. We have every intention of keep investing in all 3, and we'll see what it does along the road. I mean, we've been only doing this for 5 years, so it's very short.
Yeah, in terms of Lambic, like compared to some of your competitors there, exactly. you were very much new kids on the block.
Very green behind the ears.
Yeah. So when you bought the first year you set it up, you said you bought the wort, and that is something actually that never occurred to me before. I know this used to be common among a lot of...
It still is.
Still is. But what I never thought of before, like when you buy the wort, you're buying it, it's already been through the fermentation.
Yeah, so basically you brew it, you put it in the cool ship, and then when it's cooled down overnight, you transport it to whoever buys it from you, which in this case was us. And then you put it on oak wooden barrels to age. And there's still, I think, 1/3 of our sector are only blenders. They don't brew themselves. And the others, they also brew themselves.
Okay. I didn't realize.
There used to be dozens, hundreds of blenders that didn't brew.
Yeah. And that, I suppose, is one of the key things for anybody who hasn't had a Lambic is, well, you can tell me how much, but to me, it's always struck me as being, it's about the blending. It's because you don't have the control over how the wort will turn out. You have some control over it, but
The recipe is with most people very similar. It's not exactly the same. So the beer you make doesn't differ all that much, in my humble opinion. And then after the cool ship, okay, the concentration in the air is a little bit different at all the breweries, so that might be a difference. And then it really depends on the barrels you use. Smaller barrels, they ages faster because you have more surface air contact. Bigger barrels will age slower because it's a lot of volume and a lot of contact with the wood. Depends which wood you use. Have you steamed it, not steamed it? What was in there before? How long have you been using it? Have you done it 3 cycles? Have you been going it for 50 years? And then indeed the blending, you put different kegs together to make a Geuze or different kegs together to make a fruit beer. So there's a lot of differentiation that way.
Yeah, that's what I was wrong. I don't know. I've always wondered so much about, that they'd say, and no offense to Cantillon, who are brilliant, but that they do have their list of barrels and stuff, and very much of as if there's some sort of mystique about what you do there, but you kind of put it in there and you just leave it, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of cleaning, actually. Making sure, like in any brewery, like 3/4 of your job is cleaning. And indeed, you leave it in there for a certain amount of time, and then there's a lot of tasting and deciding, okay, this is what I want, and if I put this and this together, that I'm guessing I'm gonna get up there. But again, you blend it, and then you leave it in a bottle for 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years. It still matures further, evolves further in the bottle, so you're never 100% sure what you're gonna get, and that's, I think, also the charm of it.
Yeah,
that it's never exactly the same. You strive to get this is the flavor profile I want. You can influence a bit, but at 100% spot on, like with industrial made beer, you can't.
Yeah, and like you said, that's the charm. Like you just
Yep.
get one that's slightly different, and you can kind of tell. Well, if you're good enough, I'm not good enough.
You taste, but mine are not good enough. Our breweries, luckily, fortunately for us, that's why he does the brewing and I don't, because he does have a very refined palate. Mine is average at best. Yeah. So I know this, I like this, I don't, but don't ask me to pull 20 different flavors from it because I will be lost.
I'm the same. But I must admit, like my first time, I remember tasting my first Lambic, and I thought there was something wrong with it because I didn't understand. But slowly my tastes have come, and I really do like it.
It's a very particular, peculiar flavor. If you're not used to it, think, whoa, what the hell are you drinking?
That's what I did the first time.
Especially drink Lambic, it's always flat beer, it's not carbonated.
Yeah.
Because it's with the other beer, the Geuze, the fruit beer, it really ferments in the bottle. That's why you get carbon in there. But with Lambic, also be like, it's flat beer. What is this? It's not for everyone.
No, but if you try, I mean, like I said, I'm an example. I've really come to like it after time, but it took me quite a bit of time to
me as well. I mean, I'm not from this region. I'm from Antwerp.
Oh God!
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I actually learned to drink this while I was dating my my now wife, and that's 11 years ago. So before that, I don't think I've ever had a Geuze or a Lambic.
Okay, that surprised me. I thought it would at least have might have reached Antwerp, But like I said, I mean, you go into Brussels and it's everywhere. But it's
no, it really is, and especially in the past 10 to 15 years, there's been a huge revival. I mean, if you look at all the newer starters in our sector in Horal, they've all started in the past 10 years.
Yeah, but actually, that's the other thing. So, I mean, like we said, we have started seeing a huge. Well, maybe huge is too big a word, but a large interest in it, and people seeing it. But like right now, breweries themselves of all types there's probably too many breweries, and lots of them are closing down because of the cost of living and that seems to be maybe about to tip the point in Lambic as well, because I saw, was it Tres Fontaine?
Yep, Fontaine. Yep.
So they've come back. So do you think you're coming into this at the right time, or do you think there's maybe some or is it
the best time? Probably would have been 5 years ago. Well, to be on the market 5 years ago, so I should have started 10 years ago. That would have been a much better time. I fully agree. Especially Corona, it was quite a hit for a lot of players.
Yeah, that's true.
and everybody like kind of swam through. But I know a lot of colleagues that are still hurting from it because it hasn't been easy. And indeed, it has been a lot of new starters, and the market is only that big. So I think in 5-10 years, it's going to be a consolidation.
Okay.
Or some are going to drop out, and we're hoping we're not it, but
Well, like I say, you have the farm, you have this, so you were part of something bigger rather than
yes,
just
exactly.
the
I
lone
think
brewery.
it's harder if you started this, especially with external capital, and you have to make do, and your volumes are starting to get down. Those first 5 years of automatic growth almost, because you're new and everybody wants to taste you. I think it's going to be challenging. And I don't know how big the market still grows for Lambic, but I don't think it's going to grow forever. That would be naive. And there will be a reckoning.
Yeah.
And it'll be with the same players, but it's just less volume, or there will be others that stop doing it, or they will be bought by another company. Who knows?
Yeah. And sorry, there was something you said there, and I triggered a question in me, and now I've forgotten it. My train of thought had gone. Your market, like when you talk about the market, is it where do you normally sell? Are you still a very local kind of? Is that your market is very local, or is there a big kind of planning to kind of export? Or
we already export. It's about a third of what we make. We grow very organically because we have two other companies. I don't have a lot of time. I have less time to spend on this than I would like to have. So we have a semi-passive sales strategy, I would call it. Not ideal, but it still works for us. And we export in last month, the first 6 pallets arrived in the United States on the East Coast with Pontier Imports. So they can distribute from us. They're based out of Pennsylvania, and then you do the entire East Coast part of the Midwest. We shipped first 3 pallets to China now via Brouwerij. We've also shipped to Japan, other European countries like Sweden, Spain, Italy. So we're getting to be out there. And then Belgian market is indeed a lot of the bigger wholesalers, the bigger drink stores, liquor stores that specialize in a broad range of Lambic and Geuze beers, but also bars, restaurants, pubs, local sales at the brewery. It's a bit of everything.
Right. But no, that the export already is kind of. I'm almost surprised. I suppose I shouldn't be, but it. Like I said, Lambic is already hard enough sell to people who haven't tried it. So to get it out to the China of all places strikes me as quite an achievement.
Yeah, we're quite happy with it as well. I don't know how well it's going to sell. We'll see. They're not 100% certain either. But the thing is, there's a lot of the existing breweries. They already have importers for a lot of countries, and it's usually on an exclusivity basis. So if you have another importer, they just look for another brewery. And we have an interesting story because we have the ties with the farm. We grow fruit ourselves. We have a lot of different fruits. We don't have everything all the time because gooseberries, the harvest failed. Too bad. Won't have it for 2 years because it takes a year to make. And then it's all 100% organic. For a lot of people, it doesn't matter, but for some it does. And it's an added bonus because we're organic farmers. For us, it was logic to do organic beers as well. It's not an extra effort. It's just normal way of doing business. But if you have to start doing organic when you brew classically, it's just double costs, basically.
Right. And so is this going to be eating up, or I suppose eating up is not the right word, but how are you going to see like your farm produce? Are you going to keep a certain percentage for the brewery, or is it eventually all going to go to the brewery, or will that be too much of a reliance then on the brewery being a success? Are you going to try and
No,
I presume like it is a value add to the products that you produce on the farm.
It is. The beauty is that we sell all year round, and fruit is maybe the fruit we grow ourselves is maybe 8% of what we grow. We mostly grow a lot of vegetables.
Okay.
So the small fruit that we do grow, I have the luxury of using it all for the brewery or none at all, and I can sell it to my other customers for fruit and vegetables. So if I can use it all for the brewery, I will, but I don't have to. So this winter, I was just doing it yesterday, setting out my fields. We're gonna add another 600 cherry trees. So you have production of that for the next 30 years. But if I don't use it myself, I will sell it to somebody else, so I don't have to use it.
Right.
Same with blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, black currant. There's a lot of different ones. We have existing customers for it that don't have anything to do with beer. But if I can make beer with it, I absolutely will.
Yeah. And you, like I said, it's kind of more of a value add then rather than selling it.
It is, like with anything, we're the primary sector, and it gets more value when you upscale it to a product that has added value.
Yeah. Do you think that there's, just on a kind of a philosophical thing, do you think you could see more farmers going down that route of like trying to, because one of the things I'm seeing talk to people is there does seem to be a certain amount of interest in going away from kind of buying your big brand beers or even buying your craft beers from a relatively large brewery, and more on people looking for something local. And do you see that as a thing that farmers can add more value to their products rather than just trying to sell it very, very cheap?
Absolutely. I think the difficulty is that we're already overstretched in work, in administration, paperwork, and all that. It's challenging to add another business to your farm. And also it works well locally, but it's one of those New Year's resolutions. People say in the beginning of the year, I'm going to buy more locally, I'm going to do this and that. And I believe that you honestly mean that. But then when push comes to shove at a certain point, you also have to admit it's a bit more expensive. A lot of people can't afford it, and it's no judgment, it's just the reality. So it's very easy to say everybody should pay more for their produce, and I fully agree because it is too cheap. But I mean, if at the end of the month you don't make ends meet, then what the hell do you care what a farmer says? You just want to feed your family with something that's semi-okay taste-wise and quality-wise. So yes, I do think there is a trend towards that, but I think it's unfortunately not for everybody because of the price aspect. And also, if everybody would do that, there wouldn't be enough availability in the country.
Yeah.
And also, it's easy, right? You go to a convenience store, you can find everything. Myself, I have a very busy job. I would like to see my family, my friends. Who has time to go to 15 different stores anymore?
Yeah. So the supermarkets are still going to be the main channel.
And the baker and the butcher and the vegetable farm. I mean, you spend 2 days a week just chopping.
Yeah. Okay, so it is a possibility for some, but probably not
for everybody. A lot of them are doing it, so doing a local sale, but it's more an added value, an addition, and it's not going to replace your entire operations. For us, it's the same. That's why we grow, and we have a wholesale unit, and we have the brewery now, and we do visits at the brewery, and we rent out the space, and we sell there locally to individuals. But people from 100 kilometers away are not going to per se drive all the way there to buy some beer.
Yeah. So maybe back then to the local. I mean, or staying on the local, like we said, Lambic, it is very much a Brussels type of thing, and that the industry, the Brewers Association, is Horal.
Yep.
And that's what it's literally the last week or two you've become a member, is it?
I think 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Okay, so that makes you the newest kids there.
Yeah. Last year we were a part member, let's call it. We were allowed to go to all the meetings, but we couldn't vote because we were too new, and I get that fully. And you feel that everybody in there has made one cherry beer, it's going to be a big club. Plus then you're in there and then you say, it's not that much fun making cherry beer, I'm going to stop, and you're still a member. I mean, so it doesn't make sense. So I fully get that you're a bit cautious with who you let in. But since this year we're a full member, which also means that we're going to join the Tour de Geuze in May, first weekend of May, 4-5. We're open both days, like most of our colleagues are. It's going to be a spectacular weekend. And everybody's warning me, beware, it's going to be very busy. So planning for the worst.
So hopefully so just to let people know, that is like, I mean, it is a big organized.
Yeah.
You can get a bus that brings you basically, and they'll bring you on a
There's
tour.
a couple of different systems, like a Horal, they organize a shuttle service, and you have to buy tickets, but it's on their website, horal.be. You can, on that both days, all the bus lines are there, and they also different sets of breweries, different combinations. So it's a bit what you want, who you want to visit, but you can just come do 2 or 3 yourselves and pick your own lineup. You don't have to follow the buses. It's nice and easy. You can have a beer, but you can also just take a bike or your car or walk. Like Lindemans and us, we're a kilometer away from each other.
All right, I hadn't realized.
Really close by.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's a way for anybody to kind of understand history and to understand how it has grown and become, and what a part of the culture it is of the area. So, what else? I mean, Horal, that itself is relatively new. I mean, it's what, 20 years or something. That
from the 90s they started.
30 years.
So I think it's about 30 years now, 25, 30 years, something like that.
I mean, and that has been a huge factor in raising awareness of what Lambic is and what it was.
The original members, we all have to be thankful for them, because they haven't put in the work back then. I wouldn't have a brewery right now. So we are very grateful to our colleagues that they had the gusto and the passion to keep it up.
Yeah, and they're the same, like,
to a brand.
And how do they? I guess I wonder. Like, I mean, I'm thinking like Boone now was one of the main ones. Sorry, that's the website up there for people to go and check out tickets and the whole thing of. So Boone was one of the ones that really kept it going as well. That kind of led to the
absolutely.
They were very strong at. And how much, I suppose, like, they saw themselves as growing it. So it's no one in the industry, I guess I'm coming around to my train of thought, is everyone seems very welcoming to the idea of growing Lambic. No one seems very kind of, we were the originals and we're the, we keep the secrets. So is that accurate?
No, it's especially in Horal, because not all the Lambic brewers or blenders are in Horal. There's been some who came and went for all their own reasons, and I'm not too familiar with all the situation because I wasn't there back then. But all the members in Horal, we're very collegial because we believe that we're stronger together. Each one of us, we're just small breweries. Even Lindemans and Boon on the national stage, although for me they're huge breweries. If you compare them to the others, they're tiny. And we're stronger if we present a united block. We strive for the same standards to stay on quality, European protection for some of our beer names. We believe that by organizing things together, it sells better. Also, when you talk to governments or trade bodies, we have more things to say. If you say, okay, but we're 15 brewers together, we employ so many people, we invest so much money, then who are you?
Yeah.
A small brewery from Scheptal. Okay, fascinating. But if you say we are 80-90% of the Lambic brewers, then that's a different story. And that's the strength in the organization, that yes, we're all competitors, but we're all also colleagues. And it's better off if we work together on certain aspects and still have the ability and the freedom to do whatever you want outside of that. But there's some rules you have to follow. Otherwise, it would be there's no commitment at all.
Right. So just coming back to the beers, then, what beers are you producing now? Because generally, just the tradition, just if we go back, I mean, you've had your Guz, like you said, which is a blend of old and new. So
old and new Lambics. So the general, just to summarize it really quick, you need to have an average age of 1 year and 1 day or older. Okay. So that means that you have to put in Lambic that's at least a couple of years old. It has to be. It's going to be more strict now, but the current regulation is still that it needs to have at least 1 drop of 3-year-old Lambic.
Okay.
Hey, the wording is very interesting in how it is phrased in the law. That's going to be changed. That's a bit more strict, and then you have to meet a certain criteria analysis-wise that it works. So Lambic needs to age in wooden barrels. It needs to be in the bottle for at least 6 months, otherwise you can't call it old Geuze. If you can call it Geuze, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
With old Geuze, there's rules involved.
Okay.
So yes, we made our Geuze, the first one, 2 years ago, 2022. And then we've made a lot of different fruit beers.
Right.
Because that's one of the things, like, for instance, our blueberry one, we didn't have any plans to make a blueberry beer. We just had some leftover blueberries, half a pallet, and it was, can't sell this anymore because it's going to last another day or two and it's going to go bad, so our customers don't want it, and they shouldn't want it. But I can still throw it in a tank of beer and see what happens. And that's what happened with a lot of things. Like you eat one with green grapes, exactly the same way. We had a leftover, put it in there. Oh, look at this. That works. But we also made one with red currant, and it still have to trash it because in the re-fermentation of the bottle, it produced acetone flavor. It's terrible. So it doesn't always work. But we have one with rhubarb, old cherries, hard-baked cherries, blackberries, raspberries, different kind of grapes, because we do a lot of citrus with the wholesale unit.
Okay.
I buy the truckload literally. So we made one with blood oranges. Nobody does that. I understand why. My idea would also be,
Yeah.
But my brother-in-law said it's going to be great. So, okay, let's give it a go. Order an extra pallet, dump it in there, see what happens. And it's going to be done by Tour de Geuze, actually. It's going to be ready by then.
So that'll be the release.
Yeah, and we also made one with bergamot orange. Also a little tryout. It's only, 500 liters? So a really small batch. It's something to try. Probably not going to make it all the time, but it smelled amazing. The taste in the beginning was absolutely terrible, but we diluted it 3-4 times with Lambic, and now it's actually very good. So I'm curious to see after 6 months in the bottle how it's going to turn out.
So a lot of your beers are just what you have available, and that's the beauty of having a farm. But you might never have those again.
Exactly. I mean, if it doesn't sell and people tell that's the worst idea ever, why would you make something with bergamot? I mean, like, fair enough. Never gonna do this again. It's been fun. The blood orange, I think it's very tasty right now, but then again, that's just me. Maybe people hate it, and then we'll never make it again. So you don't know. It's the same as others. People like strawberry beer. Some people don't like strawberry beer.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of Kriek myself either.
See, there you go. I mean, for me, I like it for 1, maybe 2, but
that's
fine.
what
I'm not
I
the
like.
biggest Kriek drinker either.
Yeah.
A nice Geuze, a nice Lambic, I love it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the fruit beers I really enjoy. 1, maybe 2, but I don't see myself drinking entire afternoon of blackberry, for instance.
Yeah,
it's nice for 1 or 2, and then on to another. And that's the beauty. We have 20, so there's a lot of others you can try.
You're not going to risk any of the vegetables, are you?
No, we don't have any plans for that. We were going to try to do one with queens, but we didn't. We ended up emptying a tank too late, and the season is over, so it's going to be for next year.
Okay. And so, so like, you produce this? So you brew it, like you said, around October.
October to April,
right?
Give or take.
Then it goes in the barrels for a few years. Do you sell it at any particular, or have you noticed I know you're relatively brief, like you said, 5 years. Have you noticed any patterns in kind of annual sales or?
Not yet. We've been doing this for 5 years, but we've only been on the market for 1.5 years, give or take. Long build-up time. And no, not really. You see, end of the year, a lot of people like to buy it to drink during the holidays or to give gifts for people. So December is usually a busy month.
Okay.
And then January, usually not, because you're broke after December, logically. The summer is always a good time because it's nice weather. People are out on the bar, drinking something, having barbecues. And especially here in the region, Lambic is very popular to buy in a bag-in-box. So you just go by the brewery and you tap yourself from a barrel to drink at a barbecue or with friends on a family gathering, things like that. So Lambic in the summer works really well because it's a good thirst quencher. and it instills hunger. So it's
All right.
it's perfect to drink to start before your meal because it makes you want to eat.
Okay, I did not know that bit. So there, now that's something new. And so yeah, you're doing tours as well. Like you just mentioned, people coming to the brewery and that. So you're doing tours, and people can do.
Yeah, you can register on the brewery website, www.brewerijkestemont.be, but then spelled the Dutch way, Brouwerij.
Yeah, I'll put it up there.
I'll type it to you.
I have it over here somewhere. Put on it.
And it's you can see the schedule. We're open on Friday and Saturday between 1 and 8 p.m. depending on how busy it is. And you can come by for visits, but then you have to schedule in advance if you want to do the tour. But you also can just swing by and buy a couple of bottles or have a couple of bottles. We have a nice terrace on the back. We have a playground for your kids, so you have something to do when you enjoy a beer. And it's a great area for biking, for hiking, especially when it's good weather. It's a great place to visit because it's right on all those tours. So if you're out hiking or biking, it's a nice break to have.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like a nice Sunday afternoon.
Definitely is.
And so where do you think you're going? So now in the next couple of years, like now that you've got kind of your feet under the table, so to speak, you know, with your part of Horal, you've got your first full year of actually selling, and now you've presumably got a lot of wort fermenting away in barrels somewhere in the back.
Yeah, we have about 700 hectoliters right now of Lambic in stock. So our plan is to see now, because we have made a lot of different beers for various reasons, to see which work, which don't, which we're going to make once every so often, which we're never going to make again, which we have to make more of. And it's also a bit seeing, okay, small bottles, big bottles. In the beginning, you guess, you have no clue. But then you figure out after indeed a year and a half, okay, we need to do more big bottles of that one and small bottles of that one. So because we have a discrepancy now, people I want a small one, only have big ones, and vice versa. So we didn't always choose right. So lessons learned. And we still have a lot of margin to add brew capacity, because we don't brew every day of the season, which we could, because you don't need it right now. And it's getting more known. So doing festivals in Belgium, but also abroad, trying to export to more different countries so people can taste our beers. So it's grow at a steady pace.
Okay.
I prefer growing a nice stable volume every year until we get to a point where the brewery can stand by on itself. Then to have ×2, -2, ×2, minus. That doesn't work.
Yeah, like
some stability.
Yeah, and like we said, particularly around this time, the whole economies are going a bit. You do not want to borrow a load of money to spend on capital.
No, no, it's strange times still.
So, yeah, but it sounds like you've got a plan though, and like you said, the beauty is you're not wholly reliant on the brewery to pay everything, so it can grow at a nice organic.
For instance, we the first 50,000 bottles we all bottled them by hand. One of those machines with that fills in a little barrel, and then you stick the bottles under, and it's gravity that pulls it down and then up, and then applying the cork and the wire cap. Poof! A lot of fun, but also means that some corks are up or this or too high or too deep, so you have some quality issues. And we said from the beginning, because we have another company, screw it, let's just buy a bottling line.
Right.
It pays for itself in 3 to 4 years. Your quality goes up. You have less rejects. I mean, if you start a brewery, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
Or you have to ask someone else to do it. So it's things like that. It's a luxury. You can in some fronts you can grow a bit faster. And people say, "Did you buy a packaging line? You've been selling for a year. Are you crazy?"
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's your use of time versus capital and all of that.
Yeah, and I come from an industrial background, so I'm used to looking at something number-wise.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, listen, yeah, hopefully, I have to get over there at some stage to try it out.
Yeah,
So
please do. Always welcome.
nice. But hopefully, yeah. Look, people, the website is there. It sounds like if you're in the region, if you're definitely around in May, then you should join
absolutely swing by
and check them out. But also look out for the beers, because if you are slowly expanding and exporting, there's a chance people can get hold of one at some stage. Maybe that blood orange or something else that's slightly unusual.
Yeah. The blood orange, the bergamot, and we have. I think after the summer we're gonna make one with red grapes, the Montepulciano variety. But they're all small batches, so they're gonna go quick.
Okay, that sounds
And
good.
we're talking maybe 1,000 bottles per bottle size per beer, so it's drop in the bucket.
Exactly, but then that can make them more attractive to people as well. So, yeah.
And if you like them, we'll make them again.
There's the problem.
If you don't, understood.
Okay. So, thanks a million for the time. I know, like you said, you have 3 businesses, so thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and talk.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you, and hopefully people will check you out. Well, not just in May, but throughout the whole year. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, listen, I will leave it at that, and like I said, just thanks a million, and people go check it out. We'll see you soon.
All right, nice chatting. Bye.